All right, man. The job's got to get done, and so it will. This is episode number 53. I'm sorry, 54 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. This is being recorded on Monday, April 10th, 2023 at 3:18 p.m. It is a beautiful sunny day out. There is a slight chill of a breeze in the air, but it's prime t-shirt weather, man. You drive around and you see people driving with their windows down. You stop at a red light or a stop sign, you hear commotion of music or a podcast or whatever it is coming from the cars, man. It's a beautiful time of the year and one of my favorites for sure. This is the perfect time to go for walks, to read outside, to get any kind of filming done that you need to get done in this beautiful weather because you have the opportunity to. You're not trying to rush back inside. I was filming something a couple of weeks ago, and we had to shoot an outdoor sequence, and halfway through it, man, we were just like, we gotta rush through this, man. And you try not to rush through it to get the best possible result, but we had to take a brief break, warm ourselves up, and then finish it off, man. And it came out the best it was gonna come out given the circumstances. But on a day like this, man, the sky is the limit, or at least until it becomes nighttime and you can't film anymore. But take advantage of it, man, when you have the opportunity to. It's just something that if you have the opportunity, you're living in an area where you get this beautiful spring weather, just definitely do not deny it, man. And if you're in an area that you only only get heat or only get cold, well, use the days that you got while you still got them, man. Any kind of chance you get to go outside and do something with that time, man, is time worth spending. You got another sip of this coffee here, man. I tell you, this coffee is it's something else. Everybody loves the K cups and all that, and that's what I'm drinking right here, man. But after this, I gotta get some work done, so be making myself a pot of coffee, and then I'll be going on with today's tasks. All right, man. I hope your guys' weekend was good. It's I've said before, some weekends you get more stuff done more than others, and let me tell you, man, this was a very productive weekend for sure. Plenty of watching was accomplished. Especially plenty writing was accomplished. Sacrificed a little bit on the reading. That had to take a backseat to a couple different things, but overall, man, everything is coming along very nicely. And you look back that Monday, and you can go, man, all right, a lot got done, and we can continue on with it. You can look at whatever it is you're creating with your writing or your filming or whatever it is, and you can look, yeah, I have more than I did yesterday, and that's what counts. It builds and it builds and it builds until you actually complete what you need to complete, and then you go on to the next one, man. That's the whole point of it all, man. Is to just keep on creating, man. Keep on putting your output out there. Don't settle for well, all right, I got this done, and now I'm not gonna just do anything else. Just gotta keep going at it, man. Just gotta keep, as long as you're enjoying it, man. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that if you're not enjoying what you're doing, if you're not, if once you start seeing this as a chore, as something that you're dreading, whatever your creative passion may be, then I think it's time to reevaluate the situation and whether or not it's something that you want to continue with further or take a temporary break to. That's completely up to the eye of the beholder, but it's something to keep in mind when going forward, as if you're not wasting your own time. That's an important thing, is to just not have your time wasted with any kind of anything that you choose to do, man. Some people like to go out and they like to, socialize and go out to restaurants and pubs and stuff, and that's fine. If that's what they like doing, then that's their time well spent. But if you're like me and you'd rather stay inside and not have meaningless social interactions, but instead you can get your the work done that you need to get done and get in your watching, man, then it's definitely something you want to keep in mind going forward. But a lot of sales happening lately. It seems like this time of the year, there's a couple points of the year, late March, early April, and July, and at the end of the year, you get a lot of companies starting to have their own kind of Blu-ray sales happening at once. Indicator just had a sale. At the time of recording this a couple weeks ago, I didn't pick up anything. It was just bad timing because I knew that a couple other sales were going to be happening. What was I gonna say? Is that I think the last Indicator sale I had before that was through Diabolic DVD, and I ended up picking up that Adventures of Stanley Long box set. I'm not entirely sure what they are. I think they're Australian sex comedies. I could be wrong about that, but it looks like it, man. I haven't watched any of them yet. There's three of them. I don't remember what they were called, but a random documentary I'm sure probably a lot of you have seen, but in case you haven't, which is required viewing if you're a fan of the exploitation kind of films or really even kind of like just underground sort of films, is Not Quite Hollywood, about the rise of exploitation films in Australia, where they're making just a lot of really cool wild films. You know, the big ones coming out of it being like Mad Max and the Road Warrior and stuff. We got a lot of films like Fair Game, and you had a lot of the comedies like Felicity, and there was the other one that I can't remember the name of. There was like a big franchise one. They talk about other ones like Turkey Shoot and Road Games with Jimmy Lee Curtis and who is it, Stacy Keach, or is it? Yeah, I think you know what. This is gonna sound crazy, man. I have repeatedly gotten Stacy Keach and Powers Booth mixed up in films where I go, oh yeah, Powers Booth is in that. They're like, no, it's Stacy Keach, and I'm like, oh, it's Stacy Keach in that. No, it's Powers Booth. So I could look it up now, but why the hell not? So I don't embarrass myself any further. All right, Road Games with Jamie Lee Curtis and who was I getting right? And it was somebody's probably yelling at me. Right? It was Stacy Keach. All right, well, hey, 50% is better than 0%. But it's a great documentary because it goes over. I'm not gonna go too into it or anything like that, but it goes over that era of time when they were just doing a lot of DIY filmmaking, a lot of very dangerous filmmaking. Great stories by God damn, my mind is not with me right. George Miller. I was going to go look it up. I forgot the name for a second. Oh my gosh, man! Remember that time I called John Caviezel, John Cazale. John Sayles, man. I got 3 different names there. John Caviezel from Passion of the Christ, John Sayles, the filmmaker, and the other John, ironically, who I cannot remember who I was even talking about. Hey, I just got out of work, so you can cut me some slack on that. More coffee, man. It was actually Jim Caviezel. What did I call him? John Caviezel? Good Lord, man. Got to keep your mind sharp. Got to keep it focused, man. It's important. You got to make sure you're getting your 8 hours in and making sure you're just, getting to the point, man. You don't want to be boring the people with nonsense conversations. So I'm not going to do that, man. But anyways, talking about that documentary. But I think a lot of people have probably seen that one. What was the other one that, I don't know if it was the same filmmaker or not, but it's also very good, but it's a little less talked about, is Machete Maidens Unleashed. And I forgot where that exactly was taking place, but that was about the rise of, like with Not Quite Hollywood was, maybe it actually came out before. I don't actually know. Okay, that's 2010, but it's about the Philippines and a lot of the really wild the films that were coming out of there, man. So Not Quite Hollywood was 2008, and I think it is. Yes, both directed by Mark Hartley. Not Quite Hollywood, I don't believe currently has a United States Blu-ray. I think it was Umbrella that has an Australian Blu-ray, which would make sense. And or there might be a DVD in the U.S. I'm not actually sure, but I'm, as to my knowledge, I don't believe that Not Quite Hollywood or Machete Maidens Unleashed currently have Blu-rays here. But definitely worth watching both of those as well. I always like seeing the recommendations that they put whenever you look up a certain film. Some solid documentaries listed as well, some not so solid, but it's it's great. The other one I was gonna mention. Well, I wasn't gonna mention, but I saw it pop up, so I thought I'd give one last documentary recommendation to a documentary from 2012 called Side by Side, hosted by I think it was Keanu Reeves, talking about the evolution of film into digital, about the preservation, about the different filmmakers' reactions to the benefits and disadvantages of both shooting on film and digital, and as well as restoring films as well, in terms of how are films going to be preserved in the next however many years, and it's an interesting conversation you got there, because I think it was one of the Wachowskis. It was, I don't remember their names, but one of the Wachowskis, and one of them had a comment that was interesting. They were talking about how, film is just going to be on a hard drive, and once that hard drive is lost, then the film is lost. Something to that abbreviation. I'm obviously butchering the quote, but it was something to that effect. And it's an interesting way to look at it in terms of going forward. We're at a point now where there's so many films being made by everyone. It doesn't matter. Making a film is no longer a luxury, man. It's sort of like if you have a telephone telephone, then you're good to go, man. We're truly at a point where there's no excuse. If you want to be a filmmaker, you really don't have an excuse of not being able to film something unless you don't have any kind of camera, unless you got nothing at all, man. You know what? Then hey, you got a piece of paper and a pencil. There you go. You're an animator now. You know, it's insanity, man. You know. But anyways, yeah, check out those documentaries. I don't know. I don't know if they're streaming anywhere, so you can look them up. It doesn't really matter. That's your prerogative, man, to check out these documentaries. What the hell was I talking about recently? I was talking about something with documentaries recently. I think I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about documentaries. Yeah, I wanted to do something with documentaries, but that was something I brought up a long time ago on episode number 3 or 4, I think. Whenever I was talking about The Bridge, that documentary from 2006, I think. I really don't know. Sometime around the mid-2000s. And I was talking about doing something with specifically controversial documentaries that I never followed through with. Mostly because I don't think there was a whole lot to really... I don't know. It's a lot of the big documentaries have been covered already. And I don't really see a point to throw my hat into the ring in that regard. But I definitely consider having special episodes of recommending X amount of documentaries or X amount of, action films or anything like that may be worth your time, maybe a little less talked about, or maybe not even less talked about, but in terms of widely seen, maybe people know about it but haven't seen it. You know, there's plenty of big documentaries that I think most people have probably seen. Actually, speaking of big documentaries, I recently just watched, I don't know, I think it was his debut film, Michael Moore's Roger and Me from... God, I could not tell you the year, sometime in the mid-90s. And it was a fascinating documentary, man. It was, I have not seen a lot of Michael Moore's work. I know he's a controversial filmmaker. He's an interesting filmmaker. I've only seen Roger and Me and Bowling for Columbine. And Bowling for Columbine is an interesting documentary, but I think that's one where the filmmaking gets in the way, kind of a narrative for me, is that I from what I've seen of Michael Moore's work, and I know about, I've seen bits and pieces of, Fahrenheit 9/11 and Sicko and some of his others. What was that? I think I saw Part of Capitalism, Love Star, I don't remember, but the vibe that I kind of get is I think that he's a little more interested in making a narrative that fits rather than telling a totally complete and true story. Because you can have your detractors who politically disagree with you. That's completely besides the point. It doesn't matter where you follow on the political spectrum when as long as your narrative is sound, man. And that's, whether you agree or disagree with him is besides the point. I think where I kind of have a problem with Roger and Me and with Bowling for Columbine is that watching it and knowing that certain filmmaking aspects are not lining up as a documentary. It was interesting reading afterwards about some of the in Roger and Me, they talk about trying to get an interview with the head of the I forgot what the car manufacturer was, trying to get an interview with him and being unsuccessful, and they, towards the end of the film, they go to a meeting, they try to get an interview, it basically kind of brushes them off, and then you read afterwards, you find out that they had 2 interviews with him, but they didn't quite get the material that they needed. So, on one level, it's an entertaining film, it's an interesting film about this town kind of struggling to, it's in Flint, Michigan, struggling to regain its economy after this big car manufacturing plant shuts down, where a lot of the town's kind of bread and butter was made from, where you're losing X amount of jobs, and some people don't have the advantage of being able to go out to work elsewhere. I mean, you can look into that. That's a whole other conversation right there. I'm just judging it as a viewer, and that's fine and all. But then my issue as well is that you got to film. Let me get a sip of this coffee right here. I don't want it to go cold. When you have cold coffee, man, you start to taste the sugar. If you have it with sugar, I get mine with half and half in sugar, man. And you get to the bottom. That's why I can't drink the coffee at Dunkin's anymore, man. Because the hot coffee never sat well, man. Always had to make me go to the bathroom, and I don't mean taking a pee, man. I'm taking keep this show family friendly, but never sat well with me. And I was never a big iced coffee guy. It's a little too sweet for me. And there were too many times where I get to the bottom of the cup, man, and I just get a whole mouthful of sugar, and it's just so bitter, man. It just disorients your taste buds to the point where I don't even want it anymore. So that's why, coffee's best when it's hot and it's warm. Yeah, I'm talking about what if you're making hot coffee. I mean, I know you guys can probably reheat it in the microwave, but at that point, I got other things to do besides that. You may have noticed it, man. I'm going on about damn coffee. When I drink, I try to make some sort of noise so it's not totally silent. It's like I said before, it's like radio or something like that. You want to keep kind of a constant, you know, uh, uh, constant amount of noise. But anyways, well, I've seen before Bowling for Columbine, and I got to get to these films, man. I'm gonna wrap this up. I have other films I got to talk about. But with Bowling for Columbine, there was it's an interesting story, man. But then I guess my two big problems with the film is that number one, I think halfway through there's a little too much going on where the narrative of what was going on at Columbine and how the kids got the guns and stuff, and like that's all interesting, man. But then it starts going off into other things about the people who are like having to go outside of the town to work, and it's just like it gets lost in exhaust, man. And then as well, there's a part in the film where he goes to interview Charlton Heston, who is one of the big NRA members. And then I remember even when I was watching the film, something didn't line up where Charlton Heston walks away from him. He's like, I'm done with the interview, or whatever. And it keeps cutting back to I can't really try to describe it, but it's the way they're cutting back to Michael Moore doesn't make sense in terms of if it was a documentary, there was no way they'd be able to cut back and forth as he's walking away, and the camera's on the stairs, and he's saying, like, Mr. Heston, please, come back, look at the photo. And I'm thinking, man, wait a minute, how the hell did they get that shot, man? That doesn't make sense for a documentary. And then you find out they filmed that after, and then it was a whole big thing, and then the opening of the film. Like I said, man, I think Michael Moore's an interesting entertainer. I don't know if he's the best. I don't know. I mean, he's definitely an important documentary filmmaker in terms of whether you agree or disagree with his films, whether you like or dislike his films. But I think that he has a lot of credit into bringing kind of documentaries into the 21st century mainstream of just getting these into, well, maybe not so much anymore, but getting them on a theatrical kind of level where, because it's not too often that we get these kind of big documentaries on a big theatrical level. I think the last one was maybe like that Mr. Rogers one, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Yeah, that's the one. I get that mixed up with the Tom Hanks one. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And I guess maybe Free Solo. But, like, I don't know. I just, it's interesting the way that, after watching the films, I don't really have an interest in watching some of those stuff. But, I mean, like I said before, it's important to watch things that maybe you wouldn't normally watch, or maybe, I don't like Michael Moore. Oh, Michael Moore's the best filmmaker. It's like, all right, well, it's like you gotta watch the film as the film, man. But, hey, people have strong opinions, especially on documentaries, on political or sociological or religious or environmental documentary. People have, very strong opinions, and hopefully it can start a dialogue, and hopefully it can get you, the viewer, to perhaps watch something that maybe you wouldn't normally watch. It's sort of like I've said before, I'm a meat eater. I'm a carnivore, man. But I'll walk. I've seen plenty of vegan documentaries. I've seen Earthlings. I know Earthlings is more about the widespread kind of animal mistreatment of animals and stuff. There's a couple more I got to see. I got to see the Animal movie. I've been meaning to track that down. But, yeah, it's important whether or not it changes your point of view onto, a new perspective or not. It's just important to get an educated sort of opinion so that you can at least have some sort of background instead of just, blindly listening to, oh, the person I agree with says this, so therefore they must be right. And it's like, well, how about you, form your own opinion? It ain't a left and right sort of thing. It's black and white. It's gray. You may feel one way about one thing and feel one way about another, man. It's how you form your own conscious opinion. Don't get swayed by anybody else. Just form it and refine it, man. I want to talk about recently a new film. I won't talk too long about it, but Louis Garrel, if I'm saying that name right, he's a actor, director, probably most known for being in Bernardo Bertolucci's The Dreamers from 2003 or 2002, one of the years. I have not seen that film. That is with Eva Green and Michael Pitt. But he's got a new film out. and I haven't seen his previous films either. So this is my first real introduction to him. It's called The Innocent. Stars him in the leading role. It's primarily four main characters, man. It's you have Louis Garrel plays this guy, Abel or Abel, I don't remember. Rosh Zem, who plays this guy Michel, just gets out of jail, and formed a relationship with his ma, Sylvie, played by Anouk Greenberg. And Abel is, or Abel, I don't remember how to say his name. He's a little distrustworthy of Michel. He's always, his ma's been through a couple marriages, and he's thinking, all right, man, I'm not going to warm up to you because you dated my ma. They have a bit of a rocky start, but then they start to warm up. Oh, I also forgot to say, Clemence, played by Noomi Merlant, who you may remember recently was in Tar, and she's going to be in the upcoming Emmanuelle film from Audrey Devon, or is it Dewan? However you say a name. Anyways, this does get a little bit closer, and then something suspicious is kind of going on here. And I won't talk about it for too long, but I just want to say that I love this film. This is, and I guess this is technically 2022 as well. This and One Fine Morning were both 2022, so, but either way, I would say both those were the best things I've seen this year so far. I found this film to be completely charming, completely entertaining, had a good amount of laughs. The chemistry between Abel and Clemence is so great, man. Anytime they were on screen together was the highlight of the film, man. They worked so well together, and they just bounced off each other so well. There's a really great sequence where they have to do an act to distract somebody else, and it starts off kind of comedic, but then it gets emotional, and the way that's directed and written is fantastic. They get this other character in there, and then there was a piece of music in the film that I am struggling to remember what the hell it was from. It's like a famous piece of music from another film, and I should have looked it up beforehand because I'm watching the film. It's during the car chase, and I'm like, what the hell is that from, man? I've heard this 1,000 times, and I thought I was going to try to find it. If I remember to talk about it before, I would have looked it up, but I'm not going to be able to find it. So next week, hopefully I'll be able to pull it up for you. But either way, The Innocent, it just came out. Keep an eye on it, if it's going to be on video on demand soon, or if it's going to be playing theatrically near you. I would say definitely jump on that, and I'm sure when this gets announced for Blu-ray, I'll talk about it a bit more. But with that said, some more coffee right here. Two films that just came out. Two new releases, man. And it's interesting the parallels between these two films, both of which are period pieces set in the 80s, are both pop culture period pieces. See, that's 5 times fast. I feel about the same on both these films. Both were enjoyable, albeit gotta be fully aware that they're probably not historically accurate, but hey, you know what? Never let the who'd they say? Never let the true story get in the way of a good yarn. Who the hell said that? That was Chopper, man. What the hell's his name? Anyways, man, I saw 2 films this week. I saw one film on Amazon. I saw one film on Apple. One film theatrically. I saw a couple films theatrically, but this is one of them. First one was the film Tetris, about the legal battle over Tetris. Something I don't really know a whole lot. I used to be more into video games, and like when I was in middle school and stuff. I don't care about video games anymore. It's not how I want to spend my time. I don't find any, but besides brief glances of entertainment, I find them not to be something I want to use my time with. I'd rather be doing pretty much anything else. But I am fascinated by video game history. And this is an interesting film because I knew a little bit about the problems that came with the release of Tetris back in the 80s, about the Soviet Union having this game, the creator, Alexei Pajitnov, who had made this game, and then famously got kind of screwed over, where there was a release by Tengen, I think they were owned by Atari, for the NES, and then later on there was the official Nintendo version after I don't know if it came before or after the Game Boy version. I think probably after, the way the film was done. But this film, it's interesting. The first half of this film, I found myself, it felt very filmic. It felt like none of the dialogue felt natural. All the dialogue felt very like, it felt, I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on it. It didn't feel like natural conversations. It felt like a lot of exposition, a lot of references. The whole sequence early on when Hank Rogers, played by Taron Egerton, he's talking to his boss, and he's giving the whole history, and I'm like, man, we should have seen all this. What the? I feel like I'm jumped in the middle of the season, and I get why they did it, because in the second half of the film, which is where I think it's stronger, is when it comes into the legal battle. After they have these three different parties trying to get pretty much the worldwide rights to the arcade, the computer, and the portable rights to Tetris. And what initially, when I was a little bit lost at exactly who was going after what and what the actual stakes were, I think probably at about, when you get into the second half, when everyone starts actually meeting each other, they do these great transitions where they actually visualize who's going after what, and this sort of like 8-bit sort of video game bits. That's when it becomes a bit more clear, and I think it's where it becomes interesting. If anything, I think this film probably could have worked as two things. One, I think it would have worked probably better as a miniseries. And the double-edged sword there is that you have more time to get all of the plot in. You're not rushing through anything. With the other side of that sword is I wouldn't have watched it because I'm just a film guy. I'm not interested in miniseries or television series, but this also probably could have been a play. There's a lot of sequences where there's just these solid dialogue exchanges of them going back and forth about legalities, about misunderstandings. One character defined the computer as this, but because they didn't specify certain parts, then that means they lose the rights here. And you have these other characters they're trying to sweep in, and it's all interesting. And then you get to a kind of a fantastical ending, which is completely ridiculous. Which you watch it and you go, "This is insanity. This has such a Hollywood ending." And then you look it up and you go, "Of course it didn't happen. It's ridiculous." It's like when you watch Argo and you get to the end of that film and you just have this ridiculous chase, and it's just like you watch it, you're like, "There's no way this happened," and then it didn't happen. But for the sake of a Hollywood film, they say we gotta end with a car chase, man. This audience, they just sat through an hour and a half of dialogue. We gotta give them something exciting. As if the dialogue wasn't exciting enough, man. I don't need any kind of visual flair. It's fine, but it's a good film. It's not bad. You watch it on Apple and you enjoy it, and then you forget about it. And the other film I watched was Air, directed by Ben Affleck, the new Ben Affleck film. I got distracted by all that DC stuff for a couple years ago. I actually probably got a great paycheck. Hell, man. Because his last film, Live by Night, wasn't very good, but it's a shame that he wasn't directing for a couple of years, because I thought Argo was, speaking of which, I thought it was actually a pretty good film. What the hell was the other? He did another film, man. I didn't see Gone Baby Gone. I still have not seen that film, and I thought he directed something else. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's a film where you can see there. Oh, that's right. No, wait, no, that was David Fincher. What the hell am I talking about? I was gonna say Gone Girl. He didn't direct that. What the hell was the other film? Oh, The Town, of course. Oh my God, that's crazy. I forgot about that film. That's my favorite of his work. You get to this film, and there's a lot of dialogues very on the nose. There's a lot of times they're saying, they gotta get, who are you gonna get for the shoe? Music stops. Michael Jordan. And it's what they call a crowd pleaser, man. You watch it, and the conversations probably didn't happen like this. They probably weren't this dramatized, but you watch it, you enjoy it, and then you forget all about it. It's two forgettable films, but they're both enjoyable. It's crazy, they're playing, both these films, it's just a problem that I have with Air is they're just playing big song after big song after big song, and then you hear a lot of these songs in Tetris, and it's like deja vu, and there's a completely ridiculous sequence in Air where they're showing off a new commercial, and they would have shown it on a film reel, but instead they're watching it off of what looks to be a low quality YouTube rip, and it's like that scene in Babylon, man, when Brad Pitt's character is going to see one of his silent films, and it looks like a modern film with a black and white filter. You're like, what the hell? How you mess that up, man? It looks like I don't even know if it was in the right aspect ratio. I don't remember. But both enjoyable films, man. It's what they call crowd pleasers. You watch it, you recommend it to your folks, and who aren't watching so much films. They can, there's clear good guys, there's clear bad guys, and by the end you learn a little bit about the product, man. And hey, there's even a character playing a Game Boy in this, so it all ties in together. And hey, that got that Mario film out this weekend, so it all ties in together. But I'm quickly running out of time. I spent all this time talking about these documentaries. But all right, guys, we'll be back this week for another episode. So make sure you're working on your art and have a good time, man. That's all that counts. All right, be seeing you.